Supremacy of Basic Research, April 16, 1954, by Wilhelm Reich, M.D. Introduction. I owe my friends, co-workers, and students, as well as all patients concerned, an explanation of why I did not appear in court as a defendant. I did not appear as defendant. Of what? Because, after having experienced the FDA for 8 years, I knew their motives and intentions, and I refused to be made a butt of malignancy.
These words would have been written as a response to those who pleaded for his appearance in court, as ordered, to avoid prison sentence for placing himself under contempt of court.
I would have gone in any case of a bona fide struggle. Still, I would not have permitted basic research to be judged or adjudged in court and in absence of discussion. In other words, by a hidden court dictate of hidden control experiments. I would have certainly damaged the standing of our science, and I would have certainly emerged as an already convicted defendant under the suspicion of fraud, with the threat of a suit for fraud following.
In this document, Wilhelm Reich exposes the true nature of the fraud being perpetrated against the discovery of the life energy, identifying with precision the magnitude of the forces arrayed against him, the reasons behind the persecution, and the full significance of what was at stake. The document opens with an explanation of why he did not appear in court as a defendant.
In this manner, however, I have maintained my honor, my work. I have not been convicted by consent or by conviction.
Only those capable to confront the beast, no matter how monstrous its magnitude, to defend and protect truth, are free.
The case was decided without my participation in this unconstitutional act against truth, an act of aggression which would force the public to believe that I have spent in cash, unpaid time, effort, and risk, as well as pain, some $400,000 worth in 18 years from my discovery. That I have donated the medical use of the Orgone energy for purposes of research, only in order to commit fraud, which did not pay a cent?
What utter, preposterous, stupid nonsense, perpetrated by people unworthy to be called public servants of the people, using district attorneys, judges, and some few reporters.
Who were the conspirators behind them?
That which is most fiercely opposed reveals, by the very force of that opposition, its own magnitude.
The procedures of the FDA. Summary of the Clifford Injunction.
I am directing this communication to all who know my work and to those who, in the course of events, will learn to know about it. This is only a survey of the factual situation. An extensive presentation will be published at a later date. We shall survey A. The procedures of the FDA. B. The basic issues involved in the Clifford Injunction. C. The factual, legal, and moral position of orgonomy. A. The procedures of the FDA. From the historical material collected and printed in the volume A12EP Conspiracy, an emotional chain reaction, it emerges unequivocally that the action of the FDA originated not in a bona fide investigation of a new medical remedy, but from the beginning as a prejudiced, mollified persecution of a discovery, executed on behalf of powerful pharmaceutic interests, unknown to us because they operate behind the scenes.
Their intent was not only to kill the discovery, but to get the discoverer into jail as a fraudulent person. Mark well, all this was set before the investigation really came underway in 1947, 1948. At that time, the conspirators, mechanists in pathology and neuropsychiatrists, were in collusion to destroy orgonomy with conspirators among politicians.
Archives and records, once suppressed, now made universally available, reveal the truth that this scientist's own words expose. A conspiracy operating from the shadows with the deliberate purpose of suppressing universal knowledge of the discovery of the life energy and its healing character, while imposing in its place a system of medicine founded upon human suffering and dependency.
Two, this conspiracy on the part of pharmaceutic producers in the USA, using slander and calumny, developed like an emotional chain reaction. It involved the AMA, the Consumers Union, several prominent newspapers and periodicals, and others. It was a true conflagration on the social scene. This conflagration ran its course on its own power, but like a forest fire, it was started by a carelessly or deliberately thrown burning match. This match fell among tinder dry wood brush. The match thrower was the red fascist sniper. He and his followers had to do no more than throw the burning match.
Written in an age of suppression, the acuity of Wilhelm Reich's vision, identifying the real source of suppression and persecution against his work, is undeniable in the present age of clarity and revelation, where his words can be placed to the test, where those words are, indeed, as accurate and correct as the truth he gave his life defending.
As in the affairs of the UN, here too, the politically organized emotional plague rode toward evil goals on the back of the unorganized emotional plague, in dishonest business, corrupt medicine, politically biased persons, judges, attorneys, etc. 3. Once underway in this manner, the malafide nature of the FDA investigation, ever since 1947, had all the earmarks of ill-willed, irrational action. This was shown, among other matters, in such procedures as follows. They carefully avoided to take into consideration any case that was clearly speaking against their preconceived plan to destroy orgonomy. See cases by Dr. S. Tropp, lung cancer, and others.
Yes, the cure for cancer was found, demonstrated, case after case. Victims given a death sentence by their own physicians referred to Wilhelm Reich as a last resort, to be healed once exposed to orgone, or life energy's concentrated radiation therapy. These cases were hidden, suppressed, silenced by the FDA.
B. They refused to cooperate with the discoverer, who offered to introduce them into the new research territory. They intended, like all bad government, to proceed on mere political authority. C. They started the investigation in 1947, with sexual defamation. This was stopped as soon as it was detected by vigorous protests and withdrawal of our cooperation. See their behavior at Orgone Institute Press in Conspiracy. They refused to learn what this discovery was all about. Control of discoveries cannot be carried out with such emotional background. They were doubtlessly pushed by some force in the background, which seemed to be interested in the lists of names, the kind of instruments, the nature of the theory. Who but the political Maju hoodlum would be interested in lists of names?
The term Maju that Wilhelm Reich coined refers to combining Mocenigo, who denounced the Italian philosopher Giordano Bruno to the Inquisition, with Djugashvili, Stalin's original surname.
F. Their argument of promotional purposes of our literature, easily disproved, was not given up, although they were informed of the fact that all income from the medical use of orgone energy accumulators was not going to private individuals, but was used for research purposes only. Their argument appeared in the AMA Journal of January 8, 1949, in an article by a chemist, Smythe. Thus, chemists behind the FDA and chemists in the AMA were in collusion. Every field office of the FDA is directed by a chemist. 4. The mollified nature of the procedures of the FDA has shown up in the end in the character of the requests for admissions in the complaint in the following manner. A. They did not mention the fact that more than 24 physicians, duly licensed here and abroad, were experimenting with the medical qualities and promises, as well as the dangers of the orgone energy. B. They heaped the experiences gathered by these physicians in the course of some 14 years' work on the shoulders of one man, Wilhelm Reich, in such a manner that it now appeared as if this one physician, Wilhelm Reich, had claimed cures for all kinds of ailments, which had been published over the years by dozens of physicians and scientists. Thus, they tried to create in court the impression of deliberate fraud. C. From about 900 cases over the years, 98% of which were prescribed by their physician, they picked 10 cases for showing their cause. 9 of these had applied on the basis of having read the literature, and among them many with non-medical records. Some of these were outright FDA plants. The many positive cases they deliberately omitted, just as they left unanswered my repeated statements on the non-curative, experimental nature of physical orgone therapy.
Not a single case of any dissatisfied orgone accumulator user was found by the FDA in trying to find evidence to incriminate Wilhelm Reich. They had to falsify such cases by planting cases. That is, FDA agents pretending to be interested prospect users would order the apparatus, which would have then been shipped by the Orgone Institute following a questionnaire, to which the answers would have been provided in falsehood by the hoodlums, the crooks, the agents of deceit and deception, working on behalf of a government directed by hidden forces, operating from the shadows.
To the very end, they avoided every single successfully treated case, thus proving again that they acted in a conspiracy to defraud the public of their right to the use of an important discovery in medicine. Thus, red fascists who had thrown the burning match, American pharmaceutic interests, the medical practitioners depending financially on the powerful and ruthless, as well as reckless drug manufacturers, medical societies, and many others became involved. B. The basic issues involved. 1. Human irrationalism is acting as emotional plague on the social scene to destroy a discovery. 2. It is mechanistic technological man who acts. 3. It is the fight between primordial, pre-atomic cosmic energy, life energy, and atomic, deadly energy. 4. It is a showdown between the forces of life, scientifically still embryonic, and the forces of death, powerfully organized. In 5, in orgone energy, cosmic functions, including technological problems of space travel and spaceships, are involved.
C. The moral position of orgonomy. 1. As a branch of basic natural science, orgonomy denies the right to anyone to pass judgment on matters of basic natural scientific research, either in court or through any kind of governmental action or decree. This was expounded in the response to the complaint, sent in full confidence in the ability of Federal Judge Clifford to realize the nature of the complaint, as well as the nature of the discovery of the life energy.
2. All man-made law and political organization rests originally and has always rested on the operations of the human mind, on thinking about nature. All social organization has rested and will rest upon some kind of natural philosophy, such as that of Plato, Locke, Hume, Rousseau, Marx, etc. Therefore, to concede the right to pass judgment on matters of basic research and thinking to courts or political governments that appoint judges politically would inevitably amount to yielding authority on matters of human knowledge to the political powers that be. And this would mean the end of any chance for human freedom, happiness, and development. This cannot possibly be conceded. Quest for human knowledge is and will be supreme, no matter how great the ephemeral political power to destroy the searchers for knowledge. The crimes perpetrated by political or psychopathic hoodlums of the Beria type upon men like Bruno, Socrates, Galileo must finally be stopped. The discovery of the life energy is here in its rightful place. 3. Every human being or citizen must have the right to choose the treatment for disease he likes best. He must not be coerced by well-hidden business interests to accept only one kind of treatment, dictated by commercial horse thieves.
4. The Clifford injunction is manifestly unconstitutional. No one in the USA, including judges, has the constitutional right to order the burning of books or their destruction in any other way. Once this would be permitted to happen, any political influence could be exerted upon judges to burn anything that threatens competition. We compete by way of better accomplishment and not ever by way of slander, conspiracy, and political force. Not to resist this kind of procedure means abandoning one's responsibilities as a citizen. This is exactly what the black and red dictatorship succeeded in forcing upon millions of people.
5. The unconstitutional nature of the Clifford injunction also appears in the fact that the complainant was represented by District Attorney Mills, who from 1949 to 1951 had represented the Wilhelm Reich Foundation. He had not only functioned as its first legal clerk, he had also known the founders personally. He had defended their affairs, and he knew well that no shadow of suspicion of fraud, deliberate or not, could ever fall on the men he had learned to know in those years. He was present, furthermore, at a meeting where the conspiracy of the FDA was discussed before physicians and an attorney at law.
The same attorney who represented the United States government against Wilhelm Reich and the discovery of the life energy had previously served as attorney to the Wilhelm Reich Foundation and had been present at meetings where the matters under dispute between the FDA and the Foundation were discussed. Peter Mills entered into a direct conflict of interest when he accepted the role of representing his former client's accuser, an act that should have disqualified him immediately.
6. It is to be suspected that the pharmaceutic industry, incited to action by the Red fascist sympathizers in 1947 and after the FDA cause had been abandoned in 1950, had revived it under the influence of Mr. Weeks, the Secretary of Commerce, who in the very beginning of his career had tried to bludgeon scientists into submission. The role of Mr. Brownell is not certain. He probably acted in bona fide, though he should have looked into such a matter of great national importance more closely. However the background may be constructed, there can be no doubt that this was a clear case of criminal collusion.
The book burning of Wilhelm Reich's work took place between 1956 and 1960 by government decree of the most powerful nation on earth. 6 tons of books, journals, and papers were burned in New York at the Gansevoort Incinerator, a public incinerator on 25th Street. This crime against science was to be the only federally sanctioned book burning on American soil.